The night wrapped the desert like glass. Red rock to my left, nothing on the road, and a white orb hanging above the hood. Silent, low, wrong. My radio turned to breath, not static, not a station, just someone practicing lungs. The dashboard clock jumped 30 minutes without a second passing. One blink, 8:12, 8:42, and in the same blink, the world went still. When the light blinked out, my hands weren't where I left them. They were folded in my lap like I'd been posed. 30 minutes. Gone. I was driving alone out of Sedona after dark because business never learned to care that the red rock is prettier in daylight. I'm 41 that year, a salesman with a trunk full of displays and a head full of deadlines. I know the way the desert sounds when it forgives you for passing through it. Wind carrying sand like sentences, cicadas doing what they do best, the road singing low through the steering wheel. I had coffee cooling, AM radio mumbling about someone else's city, and the comfort of knowing that if the sky is clear, you can drive by starlight in places. The orb didn't announce itself. It was a white sphere about the size of a compact car's hood ornament if hood ornaments were moons. Weirdly close, weirdly clean, no halo, no glare, just presence. It drifted left as if tasting the shoulder, then slid back to dead ahead 30 feet off the deck, matching my speed with a politeness that felt like attention. I eased off the gas. The orb held, the radio gave up on content. The host fell away, and the board op fell away, and even the ground hum fell away, leaving breathing, slow in, long out, like I'd put my ear to the chest of a very patient swimmer. I turned the volume to 0. The breathing stayed inside, like a neighbor through drywall. When I looked from the orb down and back up, the stars behind it did a half stutter, as if the sky had been edited and was pretending it hadn't. Then the clock did its trick. 8 to 12, blink. 8:42. The second digits didn't chase each other there. They were just elsewhere. No movement in the needle sweeps. No song chorus jump. Just time missing. Not stolen, erased. I pulled onto the shoulder because everything in me that had ever loved procedure wanted paper between me and whatever the night thought it was doing. Gravel answered under the tires with the honest crunch that proves physics is still on payroll. I put the shifter into park and took my hands off the wheel, 10 and 2, ready to narrate to myself how sanity behaves. The desert stopped. Not quiet still. Imagine the soundtrack lopped off the movie, but the picture still rolling. No wind, no sibilance, even the tiny ticks a hot engine makes when it cools were absent. The orb lowered a hand's breadth closer. I felt cold breathe across my knuckles, a drop that didn't belong to Arizona. I said my name out loud to prove I was allowed to. The light tilted, the way people tilt when they're listening. That tilt felt like a request. Here are things that happened to the inside of the car in order. The seatbelt sat against my chest and for a moment felt loose while the buckle didn't move, like the webbing remembered a different body. The dash needles, temp fuel, drifted down a hair and then returned as if embarrassed. The steering wheel, I swear this, felt lighter, like the front end was unweighting itself from the world's promise. A slice of condensation formed on the inside of the windshield even though the AC was off. It beaded in a curve that wasn't straight and wasn't random, a smear like a palm had dragged dry through wet. I brought my own hand up near it. The fog avoided my palm and respected the shape already there. "Don't touch it," a voice said. "Not through ears, I don't do voices. I do invoices. I do miles per gallon on a legal pad in a hotel room. If I say a voice, I mean a thought that arrived with tone, not mine." I lowered my hand like I was in a room where someone had paid for the furniture. The orb drifted closer and my stomach did a small boat thing. No motion, just a signal. The radio's breathing shifted from 2 and 3 to 3 and 3, an equal in and out. And in that micro gap, I heard something say what my name would sound like if a wind instrument tried to pronounce it. "Say it again," I said, a little furious that anything would practice me. The breathing obliged. The second time I felt the syllables in the back of my eyes. I checked the clock because numbers are my church. 8:42 held. The second tick didn't. The wristwatch I wear to feel like my father is still correct read 8:12 like it was building me a past I could not use. I don't remember deciding to get out. That's not theater. That's a penalty. I remember my hand on the door handle and the handle being warm in a shape that didn't fit my grip, as if someone else had been holding it a breath ago. I remember the latch sound not coming with any echo. I remember silence taking that sound like a marble and dropping it in a pocket. Outside, the air had a metal to it. Penny tongue. Lightning far away with none of the drama. The orb floated maybe 15 feet off the asphalt now, the way a hummingbird knows exactly how to hold a spot without looking like it knows. It did not brighten or dim. It did not flicker. It did the least cinematic thing possible. It was. The desert around me, juniper black, red cliffs blacker, gave no opinion. Not a moth. Not a leaf shimmy. I walked to the front of the car because people survive by lying to themselves about what they're going to do next. The orb tilted again. I felt something in the jaw hinge like the start of a yawn you don't commit to. Then the jump happened, not me. The world. One frame. Orb, road, me. Next frame, same. But the moon 2 fingers higher, my feet wider, my hands now folded in front of me like someone had posed me for a picture I wouldn't have agreed to. I hadn't moved. But I had. I checked the clock on the dash where it hid behind the windshield glare. 8:42 became 8:43 with no seconds to tell me how it traveled there. My hands remembered the wheel. They did not remember my lap. The orb hadn't wobbled. I felt for car keys in my pocket. They were in the cup holder. I hadn't put them there. 30 minutes. Gone, I said, and the desert, still wrapped in glass, refused to offer me an echo that would make it a line. You want to know about the abduction because the title told you it was one. I'll give you what I own without inventing the room I can't reopen. After the jump I described, there is missing before there is after. The after is this. I became aware of being aware inside the car, with the seat pushed 2 notches farther back than I drive and the mirror tipped to a height that isn't mine. The dome light was on. My left shoe was untied and tucked neatly under the brake pedal like someone had wanted it out of the way. The steering wheel was turned 2 degrees right, though the car was parked straight. The orb was closer to the hood than I would allow anything, and for a heartbeat I thought it was on the hood. A contact I should be able to hear, but the night still owed me no sound, and then the light blinked out. Not away. Out. As if someone pinched a candle with a wet finger. The desert released its breath in a rush that made me realize I had been missing. A world of sound, the small wind, the distant truck a county over, the engine making cooling ticks like it's supposed to. My radio found a baseball game mid-inning, a voice saying, "Line drive to left," as if we hadn't been practicing lungs together. The clock pretended 8:43 had always been there. I was shaking in a way that felt like too much electricity in the skin and not enough anywhere else. The dashboard was sticky under my right hand as if I'd palmed it with sweat, but my palms were dry. A line of condensation on the inside of the windshield traced a curve from the rear-view mount toward the passenger side, like a finger had drawn dry through fog and the car had healed the glass behind it. I put the car in drive and hated myself for not staying to clap if the night wanted an encore. I pulled back onto the empty road and the wheels felt like wheels again. The steering had weight. The air came back with sand in it and bugs and everything that says Arizona at. The first turnout I stopped and put my head on the wheel and made a sound I've heard in churches and delivery rooms and nowhere else, Relief's ugly brother. I checked my phone because phones pretend to arbitrate reality. The call log showed a missed call from an unknown number at 8:29, 30 seconds, and when I played the voicemail, it was breathing. Mine? And a metallic tap like a ring against glass. My GPS track drew a dead straight line segment between 2 normal curves, a half-mile with no time attached. In the voice memo app I use for to-do lists, there was a new recording I didn't make. 031, empty except for 2 breaths and the word stay, said in a voice that sounds like me and not like me, over-breathing that is not anyone I want in the car. When you drive, your body knows how your hands like to sit on the wheel. The pose I'd been left in, hands folded, seat back, mirror wrong, felt like being told, "This is how we put you back." The next week was a series of expensive seconds. At 12:42 past the hour, my phone would wake with the screen on and no ringtone for exactly 7 seconds, then behave. The radio in my kitchen would skip one beat in a song every time the weather did that static pop in summer. The watch I'd inherited from my father would lose 15 minutes and then gain them back while sitting on the table where I could see it pretend. I took the car to a dealer with enough of a face to lie to. "Electrical," he said. "Maybe alternator noise on your bus." He replaced nothing, charged me for something, and returned my uncertainty polished. A friend with more engineer than sense waved an EMF meter around the dashboard and declared that my car was boring, which is the best possible diagnosis. In the mirror the next morning I had a bruise on the inside of my left elbow, a perfect oval, like a coin had pressed for too long, and the skin had agreed to remember. "I do not remember anything being pressed. You're waiting for me to say what it was. I won't sell you that. I will tell you what it did. It paced me. It tilted to listen. It erased 30 minutes from my clock without returning the corresponding terror. It put my hands where I didn't leave them and left the car in a posture I don't drive. It turned radio into breathing and silence into something thick you could feel on your teeth. It said a word that meant stay without saying it. It blinked out instead of away. Abduction is a word for courtrooms. This felt like being borrowed by something that left the room better than it found it and the driver less sure of where he belongs. The memory gap is not black. It's white, bright, without edges, not the terror of a fall, but the flatness of a hallway with all the doors closed. Walking with your hands out and finding a handle that does not admit your name. I did aftercare like a person who doesn't want to turn into a forum. I slept with the light on 2 nights, and then didn't. I set my alarm for 11 and 41 to see if the phone still wanted to be playful. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it learned manners. I put the watch in a drawer with my father's cufflinks and told it we were on a break. I bought a cheap digital and dared it to behave. I drove the same stretch a week later at the same time because even fear wants to check its references. The desert had wind again. The radio had ads again. The sky contained everything I expect and nothing it owed me. A man in Sedona with a gift shop and a kindness asked if I'd like to stand in a vortex and feel better. I asked him if his vortex could give back a half hour I didn't want to have had. He sold me a rock because that's his job. I put the rock on my dash. It looks like a heart if you squint. It has not stopped my phone from doing what it does. At 12 and 42. It has stopped me from talking at parties where people deserve to be kept. Safe from my story. I tell you here because you came to a place where stories are the point. I'll give you the anchors you can hang from a nail. White orb held station over my hood, tilted like listening. Radio. Breathing. Desert. Glass. Cold in the cabin. Dashboard clock jumped 30 minutes in one blink. Later, 2:42 phone wakes and 7's empty rings. Hands not where I left them. Seat moved. Mirror wrong. Keys where I didn't put them. Voicemail of breathing and a metal tap. Voice memo saying, "Stay." GPS track with a straight no-time segment. Condensation trace inside windshield that repelled fog. A bruise like a coin where coins don't go. If any piece of that is a shape you recognize without wanting to, 30 minutes gone. Radio breathing, straight line GPS knots. Hands returning wrong. Say one word in the comments so I know you were in a night that borrowed you. 30. No routes. No mile markers. No doxing the desert. Just 30. I'll read it the way I watch the clock, with respect and a new, unwilling patience. The rest is red rock and a man who now keeps his seat 2 clicks closer than before because it makes him feel like his body is his. The road out of Sedona has places where the guardrail has learned to catch regret. I didn't give it mine. I drove on, and the night remembered how to be night. And the orb kept whatever notes it took about me. If you ever find yourself on a shoulder with the desert wrapped in glass and a white sphere correcting your posture, try this. Do less than you think you should. Hands light, eyes honest. Name yourself out loud once so you can hear which world answers. If it tilts, it's listening. If your clock leaps, don't chase it. When the light blinks out, check where your hands are. They might tell you more truth than your words will. There's a spot on my windshield that still wants to repel fog at an angle you'd miss unless you knew where to look. I let it. We're both entitled to our habits now. 30 minutes. Gone, I said. It sounds dramatic. It isn't. It's an invoice time stamped by a night that will never pay it. I filed it anyway. You can call that abduction if it makes the story stand up straight. I call it being borrowed and returned with my hands polite, my seat wrong, and my sense of time slightly less loyal than before. I'm still on the road. I still love the dark. I listen to baseball and AM and the sound of tires picking their way through sand. I don't flinch at 12 and 42 anymore. If the phone wakes, I nod at it like a colleague that tells bad jokes. If the desert ever wraps its glass again, I will try to be better at being still. When your night leans in, don't try to save it. Survive it. Let time do what it thinks it is. If the light blinks out and your hands aren't where you left them, put them back. Call it politeness. Call it return. Call it mine.